Yo, what's up, man? Red light on, man. Red light on. What's up? Shout out to the whole world, man. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, man. Join the channel membership too. That link is underneath this video, man. Get all my videos early. Not all of them, but a lot of times I put videos up and I give them to the members early. I correspond with them a little more frequently than I do just regular people that comment in the comment section, but I'm thankful to everybody. The membership is $10 a month. This video was for the young brothers, man, the young black brothers, man. Young foundational black American males, man. More specifically is who I want to talk to, which is my people. My heritage, my bloodline goes back down to, I'm born and raised in North Jersey, right next door to New York City. But my bloodline goes back to Georgia and South Carolina, and to the slave roots of the first foundational blacks who were brought here to this country. And even on my mother's side, we've traced our bloodline back to a native Cherokee woman by the name of Emma Fox, going back to the early 1800s, which would be the early 19th century. So, you know, and then it could go even further back. So, you know, my bloodline is Native American and foundational Black American, which was the slaves that were brought here from Africa. And I'm not going to get into all that, oh, it was already black people here and all that. We're not going to get off into all of that. You know what I'm talking about. You know, I've heard stories. My mother picked cotton for 75 cents a day. And as a little girl, she grew up in rural Georgia, very country part of Georgia. In 1943, came through the Jim Crow South. In 1940s and 50s, went to segregated schools and saw black men beat by the Ku Klux Klan, and you know, couldn't go in certain stores, and she grew up in it, right? So she told me these stories, and then on my father's side, I heard the same stories. My uncles and aunts not going to school when the weather was nice. They only went to school when it rained or when it got cold in December, January, and February. But once the weather got nice, there was no more school because they had to work in the field. So this is my story, right? This is my life, and it's cool, and I'm cool with it, and I've accepted it, and it's okay. Okay? But I want to say this to the young brothers, man. Stay away from the niggas that that's constantly blaming the white man for their problems. Stay away from these dudes, man. Do not partake in these types of conversations. Okay? They offer no type of edification to you. They're just excuses. These are most of the times the niggas that take part in these types of conversations are niggas that got excuses for their own underperformance in their own life, okay? Or their own mediocrity that they live by, right? It's a frivolous argument when you look at it from the whole scheme of things, right? It doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything but give someone justification for them not living up to their true potential, and for them performing below average on their own, right? And it gives them justification that they, in and of themselves, haven't been able to go out and conquer nature the way that they see other people do. Now, listen, I just qualified before I got to that part. I told you about my background, my history. I know full well of the historical context in terms of what black Americans went through in this country. You understand? In the 20th century, in the 19th century, in the 18th century, in the 17th century, in the 16th century, and going back and back. So I'm full aware of all of that, okay? You know, I've studied it. I've heard stories from my mother and aunts and elders. So I know that, right? But, you know, me today, right? I'm born in 1969, right? So a lot of the historical atrocities that was done to foundational black Americans, right? I didn't experience them. And these are real. And America did these things, and white America benefited, especially during the implementation of these things that was done. But me, born in 1969, I didn't experience none of that. That wasn't my story. And I can't, right, be living my life today in 2023 in all good conscience justifying my life ain't where I think it should be because of something that was done to black people and my ancestors in 1759. That's stupid. That's idiot. That's idiocy. Right? All I've ever had was opportunity. As a result of what my ancestors went through. They went through what they went through, lived through it with the hope that a nigga be born, me, in 1969 that'll come along and take advantage of the opportunities that they didn't have and make them proud. Right? And for a big part of my life, I let them down, right? And I got on that same tip of blaming the white man for my problem, right? And I really got into, when I leaned on that argument the most, when I leaned on that argument that the white man was responsible for my life being fucked up, I leaned on that argument the most when I was doing the most destruction to me. Check me out. I ain't scared of y'all. I leaned on that argument the most when I was doing the most to destroy my own life. Whether it was through drug addiction, selling drugs, going to jail, going to prison. And I was purely and truly underperforming. And I commiserated and entertained and I hung around dudes with similar feelings and similar sentiments about how the white man was responsible for their life being messed up. And we would sit around and come up with these ridiculous, now looking outside looking in, these ridiculous arguments, but seemed justified while I was arguing, while we were there talking, that we were justified in feeling the way we felt, and we were justified in being held back, right? And I was a young man at the time. This is in the 1980s, 1990s. And listen, I'm not saying that classism doesn't exist, right? And that there's a color caste, that the caste system doesn't exist in America, because it does. The complexion and color of your skin plays a part, absolutely. But that in and of itself shouldn't be enough to overpower my will. And it shouldn't be enough, and for me it's not enough to overpower my will, right? And my mind power, and the power of my soul, and the power of my belief in myself, and the power of my confidence. It's not enough to overpower that. It's not enough, right? And like me, I just don't think anybody can stop me. I don't think that way. I don't. And I've grown here. I've arrived here. I haven't always been here, right? I've been where you may be at right now, and maybe even worse. And I used to be one of those niggas in the barbershop talking about how the white man this, the white man that, white man this. That's corny, man. That's whack. That's whack. You know, and there are some people that make a living off of that that make a living off that argument. They continually inflame that argument and facilitate it in order to promote their agenda, because they know that there's a segment of the black community, the foundation of Black America community, that is psychologically beaten and downtrodden, and that are underperformers. And they use that argument in order to win favor with this particular group and extract money from this group. You understand? And, you know, to me, for a nigga to sit around, a man, right? I'm a man, right? I ain't no woman. I'm 100% man. You understand? So for me to sit around in my life and convince myself and tell myself and resolve it in my mind that my life is hindered by another man is a sign of weakness. It's a sign of mental illness. It's a sign of weakness. No man should take the position that his life is the freedom, or his leash on his life is controlled by another man. Any man that feels that way is a weak man, irrespective of race or color. And you have some people of other nationalities that feel that. A man is to be a man and to behave as one. And he's supposed to go out and impose his will upon nature and upon life. And you know, the dudes that do this, if you look further, and they will conceal this part. They won't ever exhibit and show this part. They won't reveal this part. They've suffered some type of damage in their life. Maybe some failures, relationship problems, or behavioral issues, lack of discipline, lack of concentration, no work ethic. And this is prevalent throughout humanity. Among all 8 billion people on the planet, you just have some lazy ass people amongst all 8 billion people. And they uh, are just not able to achieve the mental attitude necessary in order to win and be a winner. So they harp on this argument. And if you look further, you may look into their life and you may say different vices that they'll say has no bearing on their position. They may be alcohol, drugs, weed, gambling, any number of vices. But they don't want to look at that part, right? Or just plain weak. And see, another thing that's super important when we're talking about my people, and this is who I'm talking to, and I'm talking about the foundational Black American. And if you're not a foundational Black American, this ain't for you. If you from the Caribbean and you moved here and you were born here, that don't make you a foundational Black American. You're a Caribbean American. If you from Africa and you moved here, your family moved here, you were born here, but your family is from Cameroon or from Zimbabwe, you are from Zimbabwe or you are from Cameroon, you are not a foundational Black American. So I ain't talking to you. And see, what we have to understand, what I understand as foundational Black Americans, is that we suffer from low self-esteem and low self-perception, and a lack of self-confidence. And I think that I'm going to go as so far as to say that we're genetically predisposed to it, because if your mother and father had low self-esteem and they produce a child, that child will inherently and genetically have low self-esteem. And the further you go back into the history of the foundational Black American here in America, it's just generation after generation of low self-esteem, right? Of being subjugated, of being controlled, of not being allowed to have your right to self-determination, or not choosing your right to self-determination, because you can choose death over slavery, right? And some foundational Black Americans did. They chose death. This is, no, this ain't for me. I'd rather die than to be treated like a cow, right? Or a goat. And, some just relented, and some were just subdued, and they were psychologically beaten down. Look at that plane right there. They were psychologically beaten down, and they accepted that role. So again, that argument, because we're genetically predisposed and to low self-esteem, right? And a negative self-perception. See, a lot of us hate who we are because we hate our history, and we hate where we came from, and we hate the people that were associated with that type of behavior, but we don't hate ourselves for allowing it. We don't hate ourselves for accepting it. We don't hate ourselves for not being willing to die for freedom. We don't look at that part. We just blame somebody else. And when you blame somebody else for your problem, you de facto declare that person superior to you. You declare that person your superior, your master, whether you free or enslaved. And I just want to tell the young dudes, man, don't get into that. If you 20 years old now, if you was born in the 2000s, if you was born in the 1990s or 2000s, you ain't got no type of argument for that, kid. Shut it up. Shut it up. Shut up. Knock it off. You ain't got nothing but opportunity. You got this thing right here. This thing right here. You can start an international business with this thing. You got opportunities and choices that in 2023, at your young age, in your 20s, strong as an ox, that people that were born in 1906 didn't have. That foundational black Americans born in 1832 didn't have. That foundational black Americans born in 1777, they didn't have. And you got the nerve and the gall and the balls to fix your mouth to talk about how the white man holding you back, and you 20-something years old. You's a true sucker. You's a true sucker. You just weak. You just weak. And you chill with other weak young people like yourself, and y'all commiserate, and you come up with these outrageous scenarios as to how you're justified in being weak, and you don't do nothing with your life. Listen, man, I'm 53 years old. I'm 53. And I know I don't look it. I know I look good. Because I feel good. And I am good. I'm great, as a matter of fact. I'm a tremendous individual. Very powerful man. That I am. I'm 53 years old. I went to drug rehab in 1990. I got clean. And like when I was really in the throes of my drug addiction in the 80s, right? I started getting high when I was 12. I stopped getting high when I was 21. From 1981 to 1990, I got high throughout the whole 80s. I was on that same argument. White man holding me back. White man holding me back. That was a lie. I was holding me back. My mother didn't teach me. She didn't encourage me to smoke weed. She didn't teach me to do crime. My mother did not teach me that. I chose that. I said, she corny. And I got clean in 1990. I haven't gotten high since. In 2 weeks, I'll be clean 32 years. I don't drink, I don't get high. I've been to jail a bunch of times, federal prison and all. And every time I went to jail, or every time, even when I went to the feds, that shit was on me. That was my fault. My mother didn't teach me to go out there and break the law. She didn't teach me that. I deliberately set out to do it, irrespective of what somebody else do. Oh, everybody break the law, then good, let them break it. That don't make me, because everybody breaking it, that don't make it right. That don't make me have to join in. Nah. Everything, the biggest setbacks that I've had in my life were of my own doing. You understand? Now I know some niggas gonna come in the comment section. I don't care. Let me let y'all know right up front. I don't care nothing about what you got to say. This is my opinion. And you ain't got to agree and you ain't got to disagree. You understand? But you can't destroy yourself and blame it on somebody else, man. You cannot do that. That's weak. And at some point, you got to take accountability for your life. And at some point, I was sitting in federal prison at the age of 45 years old. I had lost $1 million and some change. Everything that I owned. $400,000 a year income, 9 houses, custody of my son. I had lost everything. And I was sitting at Morgantown, FCI Morgantown in Morgantown, West Virginia. And I said, Sean, you did this to you. And I said, Sean, you got to take accountability for your life. And that's when my life changed. And your life will change as soon as you get the courage enough to take accountability for it and start making your life what you want it to be and quit blaming somebody else for your life. My platform is international. I'm known all over this world. I'm known on 6 of the 7 continents. And if there's anybody on Antarctica and they got access to YouTube, then I'm known on all 7 continents. People from all 7 continents have bought my shirts, have bought this hat, have bought my books, have supported me, have sent me money, have super chatted me, have supported me. Bunch of white people, bunch of niggas too, Foundation of Black Americans, everybody, Asians, Europeans, South Americans, Caribbeans, Africans, Latino, everybody has supported Sean G. And I ain't saying this to justify what I'm saying. What I just said, what I said on this video, I can say it to your face. And I said it because it comes from my heart. Save yourself some time, young brother, and get up off that argument. And the second thing you need to get up off of is get up off your ass and get to work and quit being weak. Stop being a crybaby. See, because crybabies talk about how the white man holding me back. They did this. They did that. I'm like, well, who is they? They who? They. No, these are the shackles and the chains that you got on your mind. You went and locked yourself in the jail and you got the key and you the warden. You the CO and you the warden and you locked yourself in a cell and you got the key to let yourself out, but you stay in prison. These are the people, these are the type of niggas when they have these arguments. These niggas is weak. They corny. Stay away from them. Stay away from them. Sean G. Podcast with soul. Stigmatism in my soul. Peace.